such a poor quality rip of this song. What the fuck? That's just not gonna handle it, right? We're gonna have to get a I couldn't handle that. I don't know if that was the right version, but it was fucked. If that is actually how the score goes, I'll be very disappointed. Jesus. Just get to the good part of that theme, right? Yeah, certain theme songs have some excellent building. That one just kept on building and dropping. Musicians did it better. Hey, we've got a bit of selling here coming through. Let me check what's going on there with the pound. No headline I can see. Maybe Mike's just breaking, taking some stops. Must be disappointing, yeah, for the Bulls. We haven't got any follow through at all. Any sort of sustained rally, short squeeze. Might be a comment somewhere. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it reported on any of my Twitter followers or the streams. Oh, Belfast court decision. Okay, what happened in Belfast? Belfast court decision. Pro-government stance, easier to get out of the EU. Some dudes in there now. Clumperuno. The executive holds power to trigger Article 50. I don't know how much of a variance it's going to have. I mean, obviously it's straight up negative because it's dissuades the arguments, that has to be debated in Parliament. But see, this has actually been fought in the High Court in in England as well. Potter might know more about that. That's not on our day-to-day reading in Australia anyway. But there's definitely we'll get more of a clarification on what that exactly means, surely. But definitely it's not positive. Would I chase it? No. Don't have much exposure in the pound at the moment. Got a little bit of pound Swiss. No, it's not the exit. It's the Belfast. It's not month inflows, man. Oh, we closed out that pound Swiss a little while ago, actually, so we don't have it. Good, excellent. I'm going to sell a little bit of Mexican into the weekend. I don't feel like there's going to be anything. This little Trump rally, I believe, is over. This second win that Trump's had. I don't mind getting involved in that. Getting out my golds. Shouldn't be shenaniganing around that. Wait. Entry start. I upgraded this account, minimum trade sizes, but gonna have to get that closed later. Keep that in mind if you do upgrade accounts, guys. Sometimes your minimum volume changes. It means that you have to do it. They will tell you have to do it when you've got no open positions, otherwise you will be stuck with some trades. That's just one of the peculiarities of a 2007 program like MT4. So it has to be closed from a back office of a brokerage. Maybe short. Goal's not the worst trade. Yeah, so this week was actually pretty quiet. Apart from the break in the dollar yen above 105 and the shenanigans going on with the Aussie post CPI. We had that rally and then that sharp reversal. There isn't much going on this week. Everything's building up to next week. Next week's a blockbuster. We've got the FOMC and the NFP, right? I mean, basically, by the end of Friday, we're going to know if they're raising rates in December or not. And it should be pretty apparent. I think the statement's going to be hawkish from the FOMC, and I think the US dollar is going to do really well next week. I think dollar yen's front run most of that move. But we still got, some distance to get to. Probably going to break higher. What you're seeing is yields around the world actually continue to go higher. So something like Euro Yen is actually rallying at the same time that Pound Yen is. It's not requotes, so you literally can't close it out. You can't close out off one volume trade on a 0.3 volume trade on a one volume. That's what the incorrect journal. Always check your journals. Actually, I should do a little tutorial on what the journals mean. Invalid volume, basically saying that I've got mini account trades, like less than a lot trades on an account which can only trade standard lots. But yeah, I mean, this stuff that's coming through the High Court basically could be a preview of how the UK High Court rules, and then if the UK High Court rules the same way, then it's easy for May to just go ahead and trigger Article 50 without too much of a debate in Parliament, and therefore, since she's going to war type of leadership at the moment, then you've got potentially more downside in the pound. But it's not the UK High Court, it's just the Irish High Court, right? Yeah, Northern Ireland High Court. What is ZK Sar? Is he just trolling? It's a funny way of trolling. I don't know what he's on everyone's case is about. Aussie Kiwi still looking good. No. I mean, Aussies Kiwis getting ripped apart because of the Aussie move, right? So, you know, Aussie's doing that. I don't know if you call it still inside the range, right? But it's pretty vicious. And so obviously the Aussie Kiwi's been caught with that. Stops might be hit on this trade. I am surprised by this. You know, you have the RBNZ coming up relatively shortly, and it should be a dovish event for the Kiwi, but the Aussies leading the way in the market. The Kiwi's just sideways, doing nothing, and the Aussies just getting smashed. Seems like Aussie. I don't know if this is just a play because the market got too excited on the long side. I don't think we got the ability to bust out 75, say, but definitely it's not going to plan. So this is a sort of scenario where you have to have stops because we're not at 103 anymore, right? We're at 107.50, trying to bust up to the top side. So if this goes wrong, you're going to have trouble. I'm just going to put a stop here on the Mexican as well. This rally is on the back of that North Carolina. We're going to look at some US election stuff. US election is coming up Tuesday week, so not very far away either. And that will be huge in the markets next week in terms of risk on, risk off. And everyone will be talking about whether it's good for Clinton to win or not. Should be at least short-term good. But just a general risk, if there's any hint that Trump can win, perhaps you're going to see some risk off next week just on the back of that. We'll see. Euro Swiss is doing fine. Dollar Mexican is fine. Shorting the euro is a little sus here. It hasn't had follow through. It's not like it's as dollar yen kicked and euro didn't. And we didn't get any filled on our dollar yen second order. Market just grinded higher past 105 without a stop. So we're still holding short. We got spiked in a couple of days ago. Market didn't take us out last night, luckily, and now we're just seeing how we go. Probably we're going to continue lower, but I don't know. But what's interesting about this is that the euro yen's rallying and sneaking up with the euro yen yields. So the euro yen, the euro yields have been rising, but the euro hasn't. But the euro yen has because US yields are rising, but Japanese aren't. So in the three big pairs. So the three big boys, euro, US dollar, and yen. Yen's really far behind at the moment. Really far behind. And that's something which is exciting for us when we're looking to buy, say, pound yen or Aussie yen, that we can continue to grind higher. Like Aussie yen now is relatively quite a nice buy. To me, I like it, but maybe euro yen and dollar yen are safer. Yeah, cable guys might take it down to test that 120.80, and then obviously 120, and then 118 is on the agenda next week if this is the way that it wants to play out. It's actually interesting. This is pretty negative news, obviously, from Northern Ireland, right? But if the market can't sell off as well, we can read into that as bullish, depending on what happens in the next, say, next 3 or 4 hours. If the market can get past 122, that's the sort of thing I'm looking for. Yeah, I'm looking for bullish action after bearish news, and that will allow me to go counter trend. Otherwise, we're just waiting for general downside. It's a sort of news that can be shrugged off. It's slightly ambiguous and it's not directly the big news. So, but the initial reaction is obviously down. We're just seeing what's going to happen next. I mean, the sellers of the pound are just so keen, right? Who the hell's selling at 121.30? I mean, their plan is not to stick around forever, right? Unless they really think it's going to 110. There must be some keen guys out there. I don't understand that psyche, right? I don't understand following the trend. I don't understand following the trend after 30 big figures into all-time low territory. It's like, so obviously at some point someone's selling at, say, 117 if we get to 117. Who are those guys? I'm not built psychologically to do that. I know that myself for sure. Why is euro rallying when pound is falling? Well, euro is not really rallying. It's just euro is not stronger than the US dollar. The euro is stronger against, say, the Aussie and the yen at the moment, and against the pound, which has just got no friends. But it's not like the euro is kingpin. What's going on with the euro is that the only one buying their bonds is the central bank. So, and if they taper in December, you're going to see some euro action, that's for sure. To the downside. Sorry, to the top side, if they taper. Just right now, no one's got the appetite to try and fight against the US dollar. That's what it is, right? You have to think about it as a term of that. Even if the euro is strong, is it strong against the US dollar? Maybe not. There's easier ways to fight this battle. And that sort of scenario actually hurts the Aussie. When people like to buy the Euro Aussie really does badly. If you're ever looking at the Aussie and it's doing odd stuff where it's just selling relentlessly and there's like, what the hell's going on? Have a look at where the Euro Aussie is and where it's coming from. And often it's an unwind in this pair. Okay, and so the unwinds in these pairs can be brutal, can be relentless, and often coincide with the sell-off in the Aussie. And it's just important that you know that, right? You know that you're looking at whether if it's straight US dollar strength, okay, which you can tell via the US dollar index. Alright. I mean, it's strong but not crazy. This is the daily, so I'm going to the hourly. Strong but not crazy. So if the Aussie is getting sold aggressively, right, then you check on the Euro Aussie, even the Pound Aussie, and see what's happening there. And if they're rallying, then you know it's a bit of a clean out position wise. That it's Aussie weakness, right? Not US dollar strength. Little tricks. And if it's Aussie weakness, not US dollar strength, when the euro is popping like this, then the idea to say to buy the Aussie, say when it's at 131, check the timeline. Let's just, I'll show you what I mean by this. So say I want to buy the Aussie and I'm like, what's going on here? The Aussie, checking the Euro Aussie and go, oh shit, that looks strong. It's a bit dangerous. And it's say 8 o'clock yesterday. 8 GMT yesterday. Then I go across to the Aussie. Let's just see the price action there on that 4 hour. Because I was considering buying the Aussie yesterday. I was like, oh shit, should I get a bit of this? This is back at supports. So, you know, the market was still above 76 at that point. It had fallen back a fair bit, still above 75.80. And I was thinking about buying it here. But then looking at the Euro Aussie starting to grind higher and pop above, you know, previous highs. So it was making new higher high. Then I was like, oh, maybe we'll just sit on the sidelines. And, you know, the sterling just got sustained and sustained and sustained. And now, technically, it looks a bit fucked. Price action-wise, it looks a bit fucked. It's broken that sort of support range. I suspect we're going to the low end of the 77, 75 range. Do I like it? No. Do I believe it? No. Do I want to buy after the RBA holds next week? Yeah. But am I going to get in the way of it? Not yet. I'm not going to put my, I'll buy down towards the low 75.50, 75.20 in anticipation of the RBA holding. And I don't mind selling the Euro Aussie whenever that is. That'll be back up at, 140, maybe 145. So looking at crosses can definitely help you trading, broadly, if you know what to look for. And remember, Aussie's been quite strong across the board. Dollar yen's still expected to go to 107, 110. Yeah. But we'll have a look at some of those reports. Oh, these guys have changed their bear. This is a great little article to read. These are the bears turning into bulls. So this is going to be important. Let's have a little gander. A little gander. That old Deutsche Bank's capitulation. We warned since July, 75% probability of dollar yen dropping under 100. However, dollar yen broke out in an upward direction from a triangle fad back in October. Downward pressures temporarily eased. That said, if we like to compare scenarios of move to 110 or drop below 100, we still see a higher likelihood of the latter. Oh, okay, you haven't given up yet. Haven't given up yet. The US recovery is also in line with the recent rise in US rates. We expect an increase in buys in the low 100 range and strong possibility of avoiding a drop below 100 if the US economy is bottom firm and fosters expectations of multiple hikes in the coming months. That's exactly what's happening. People aren't just looking at December now, they're looking at March for the second hike. Why is it going to go lower? What's the reason? Is the Fed going to stop raising rates again? Maybe. But what's their core reason? Why? The BOJ's doing nothing. I haven't seen this. See this here? This is the like the COT report, right? You're looking at the way that the market was long dollar yen. Yeah. And now it's been short and we're starting to see a pickup. So this market can flip aggressively. Back up to those days when we were rising. This rally hasn't even begun yet, boys. This rally has not even begun. Cast your mind back to what we were talking about yesterday. We're talking about the 2-year yields in the US breaking higher. Okay? 2-year yields in the US breaking above 135. If it breaks above 135, we've got ourselves a 110, 115 dollar yen. And that can be hard to stop. Not that I'm really a bond trader, but the current world has the biggest bond bubble you've ever seen, so of calling the end of the ultra low yields is not crazy world. I'm not making a big call. That's all I'm saying. 10-year has powered through the 180. So obviously big figures on that would be important. When there was a taper tantrum a couple of years ago, it went to 3%. 3%, right? Perhaps we just, we're just going to have to wait for a little bit more US data to get that next click. But 200-day moving average is where? 107.40. Let's see if they're talking about the Aussie. Nothing there. I haven't looked at Goldman Sachs preview of the GDP yet. Let's see what they think. So US GDP is coming out today. Q3. It's expected to be strong, but the Fed's expectations are for it to be strong. I think even stronger than the current market estimates. I don't think it's going to impact the market too much, except for sentiment. Shit, there's a lot of fucking research today. I'm gonna look at the month-end buying. So, month-end buying is when there's repositioning by the big global investment funds. So a lot of it's to do with rebalancing these portfolios to based upon how the relative indices have gone. And it's in US dollars terms too, boys. It's in US dollar terms. So, what do I mean by that? If US dollar rallies, and the European stocks also outperform the US stocks, the net result could be still that will end up being US dollar buying. Whereas if there was no US dollar strength, European stocks outperformed, then there'll be US dollar selling. But yeah, that's a little complicated to explain. First time you hear that shit. So, like the euro here is a good example. And the numbers we're talking are pretty large, right? the net result is a zero change, but you know, if we had seen the equities rise alone, okay, we would have had a much different story than we have right now. Oh shit, they're going to explain it. Maybe they'll explain it better than me. Alright. Maybe they'll explain it mostly. And it's giving you the actual time that most of these moves go in, which is just in the start of the US session. Just after the start of the US session, you start to see that month-end flow come through. And sometimes it's not done on the last day, sometimes it's done on the day before, or 2 days before, over time. But, yeah. Okay, that's not very clear. I just read that. I'll think about explaining it clearly to you, and I'll try and make an example up just so you can understand. It's not good when it's net zero, but I'll look at the UK example and probably explain it on Monday to you. Okay. I just don't want to fuck up either in explaining it. But yeah, basically the big funds have to be currency neutral, so they're hedged. They're hedged to the exposure in the currency. So if the value of their assets increase, they have to hedge more. Does that make sense? Yeah, so we're fundamental, mate. Sentiment too, a little bit. So a few days ago, we let David Bloom rant at us about the repricing and the current account deficit that the UK's got. How are they going to get around it? What's going to happen with the Brexit, and that lower rates are going to help, but it's going to need much lower than usual. Say 20 years ago, you could have just dropped to 120 and it would be fine. Maybe it has to drop to 110 because it's not quick, to get new manufacturing done, say in the UK. It's not just something which will happen overnight. Well, they're not really talking about that. This is on the topic of what we were talking about before. If they do start to price in a little bit more than one interest rate hike in 2017, then you're going to see the US dollar surge against the yen. So the way we get to 115 and say we want to make some money, some serious money next year, or just even later this year, by getting onto a dollar yen rally early and letting it run before it's the market's views changed. This is the sort of things that we have to be looking at. I mean, the Fed dot points, I suppose, but it's not so much that. It's, you can check how much the market's pricing in. So, Nomura's got a pricing in 100 basis points, so that's 4 rate hikes by the end of 2018. That's not aggressive. The FOMC's projection is 6 rate hikes by the end of 2018. Because of impact of appreciation that the Fed will have on the Fed's outlook, we believe. So they're talking about the US dollar appreciation will have on the Fed's outlook. We believe that the pace of normalization, similar to the FOMC's expectation, is very unlikely. So basically, if the US dollar goes berserk, dollar yen goes to 115 and euro goes to parity, then the Fed will back off raising rates because they don't want to keep on pushing the US dollar. That's their feedback loop, is that they'll slow down until, basically they can get away with raising US rates every time there's a big rally against the US dollar. Oh, I'm sorry, Kerbo. Sorry, mate. Sorry. Yeah, all right. I'll try not to swear. It's Friday night at 9 o'clock. All right, I'll keep that in mind, mate. Sorry. Got a bit Australian in us, huh? Just tell the kids. Oh, don't worry, kids. He's just from Australia. That's how they speak down there. He's just saying hello. I will speak as if my mother's in the room. Anthony, it's H, not H. We're not Catholic. Market is currently pricing barely 50 basis points of hikes until the end of 2018. Wow. Wow. Oh, Kevin, you can hate me, but you can't hate my trading, all right? All right, that crosses the line. That crosses the line. Based on our economist's previous work, suggests a 10% appreciation of the broad US dollar index, so a move, say 107, 108 on the dollar index, would lead to 50 basis points of rate hikes being taken out by the US in their feedback loop. That means that the 150 basis points that the Fed is arguing for is too aggressive. They're going for just 100. 100 is still a lot more than the 50 that the market is currently pricing in. So the dollar yen rally still has a lot to move based upon these guys' talk. And this sounds all reasonable. We'll have to get some counter to this. Obviously, this is very bullish and everything's going to be rosy and there's going to be no issues. Any sort of stock market mayhem always delays Fed hikes. We've only seen one hike, right? And we're at the end of 2016. They still haven't done their second hike yet. We're just talking like they're going to do it. It could be just one a year. Like, literally, everyone was talking up they were going to do a 4 this year. You know, they just did 1, and they haven't done it yet. So, yeah. All right, the impact on key pairs. This is interesting. About 5% lower, so they're looking for about parity, a little bit above parity. And dollar yen, what they're looking for? Looking for 111. Yeah, we don't have those logins. Yeah, but not bad research. Maybe we're looking more into some of the other banks, Fed medium-term expectations next week as it gets closer. Oh, this is UK GDP. We wanted some US GDP. Right, we'll find one more little rant about US GDP and then we'll end it for today, guys. Everyone have a good weekend. Don't trade crazy. Don't sell the US dollar easily. Alright, they're looking for 2.6%. Market is at 2.4. Goldman was at 2.9. Yeah, so keep an eye on the pound as well. The pound, if it gets back above 122, really catch the market short. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying keep an eye on it just in case the sort of negative news doesn't carry. Keep an eye on dollar yen. Make sure that it continues to hold above 105. If it breaks back below 105, you might see a bit of a clean out. That would still be a good buying opportunity, but you know, you got to give it some time to run back towards maybe 104.60. And keep an eye on the Aussie, I suppose. Looks too early to buy it still. We do want to buy, but we want to buy after the RBA. No, if Trump wins, buy the dollar. Because it'll be risk off. I mean, Lehman Brothers, you bought the US dollar, even though it was a US bank, right? Got to sell on the Aussie. Where do I want to take profit? Jesus. I would be taking profit now, but I'm a pussy. Yeah, Trump wins. I think they dump stocks just until he, I don't know, make sure he's not, insano. If you're keen on selling Aussie, maybe just go 75.40. It'll take a dovish RBA to get past 75 and a super strong GDP print from the US and just relentless, no give up buying. I don't think it's easy to get past 75 at all. So yeah, sometime soon. Really, I'd probably just play it off price action, yeah. Looks like it wants to have a little look lower, so. But soon enough. Many false sell-offs in the Aussie in the past 3 months. Many. Alright guys, trade safe. I'll be back 9 GMT next week. Keep it PG. Yeah, yeah. You enjoy your weekend too, Dave. It's gonna be a good break, mate.